Right everyone, what is going on? BusterBarnes here, bringing you my review slash recap of Chelsea's 2-1 win away at Sheffield United, bringing us to 5th place in the table, Thomas Tuchel's 3rd win in charge of the Blues, and we are just creeping up on the heels of Liverpool in 4th place and nearby to 2nd place as well, only 6 points behind United. Obviously some teams below us with some games in hand, but signs are good at the moment for the Blues. Now the game wasn't the most interesting, wasn't the most exciting. However, all that really matters at the moment is the 3 points. Now, I'm going to be getting into that a little bit later, what we can expect from Chelsea going forward for maybe even the rest of the season or definitely the next few games. But I will be going over the key moments of the match as well as giving you guys my player ratings and my player of the season point scoring system as well. So if you enjoy, leave a like, comment down below your review of the game. I'd love to read them, and as always, subscribe for more Chelsea FC content. If I quickly get into the key moments of the game, starting off with the formation was the 3-4-3, a bit less rotation than I perhaps thought we would see. It was actually rumoured as well before the game. Obviously Christensen came in for Thiago Silva in the centre of the back three. We saw Chilwell come in at left wing back, and I did say before the match in my preview that Bogle was maybe the biggest threat in Sheffield United's team, and I guess we covered for that either way because I think he played on the right this time around, and he was up against Ben Chilwell, so it was nice to pick more of the defensive option there. Jorginho and Kovacic in midfield again. We saw the front three of Werner, Mount and Olivier Giroud. Wasn't sure if Olivier Giroud was the right man, and it sort of turned out that it wasn't. He didn't really have the best game, to be honest, but two people that had good games were Mount and Werner, linking up quite well. And I mean, still attacking wise, we're still finding some issues making those key decisions in and around the box. It seems like a lot of our players are passing the ball around hoping that someone else does something, and that's sort of what happened for most of the first half. Sheffield's probably giving us our biggest test yet under Tuchel. They had some, decent fun going forwards. The defence maybe not as solid as it usually is. Obviously, Thiago Silva's a big miss. Christensen not really known for that sort of communication leadership role. Aspi and Rudiger, though, should have been there to maybe do enough. Rudiger making a few little errors every now and again defensively. But the first thing that happened, the first major thing, was Chilwell actually brought down the Sheffield United player in the box, and it was given a penalty. However, on the VAR reconsideration, the player was offside as he received the ball. So luckily, and Chelsea really just getting away with one there. Not a great challenge by Chilwell. Seemed a little bit lazy and a bit sloppy, but he did get away with that. And luckily that was not given a penalty, but not too later on, just before half-time did go. We did see Timo Werner run down the wing, cross it in on his left foot, I should say cut back, to Mason Mount, who with his own left foot, his weak foot, slots it really nicely into the bottom right corner. And Mount, he did say in his last game he needs to add some more goals if he's going to play further forwards, and that's what he did in this game. He got himself a goal, so very nice from him. His energy was constant as well, his pressing, covering for counter-attacks. I will say in the first half we weren't super impressive. Jorginho sort of giving us a bit of a nostalgic look back at his performance against Sheffield last year, which, if you guys remember, was not the greatest. Like I said, a bit more defensive or a bit more shaky defensively, maybe a bit safer as well, not enough going forward. I did see some people criticising Reece James and passing the ball back a lot and not progressing it. Not sure if that was true. I didn't really notice that, but I'll keep an eye out for that in our next future games if he does play right wing back. But first half was done 1-0. Looked alright, but Sheffield definitely providing our biggest test yet. Going into the second half, actually the goal from Mount might have been in the second half, I'm not sure, but either way, I can't remember. But Rudiger, Antonio Rudiger, I saw a lot of people tweeting, Rudiger is back after his own goal, and basically the ball gets put into the box, Mendy comes out to collect it, a bit of a communication issue, and Rudiger just, nicely slots the ball home into the bottom left corner of our own goal. A communication issue there, I would say it's probably more Rudiger's fault because, if that sort of thing happens, he just needs to lever that ball away, even if it's for a corner. Doing the pass past Mendy into the goal. It was very poor from him. And obviously, he's been under the limelight recently in Chelsea, so maybe not great for him. But I will say one thing about Rudiger is I do think he defended pretty well, to be honest, and I think if that hadn't have happened, he might have been our best centre-back on the night. Maybe controversial that, but that is what I think. But not so long after that own goal, we did score. Werner goes down in the box via a Ramsdale challenge. Actually, a painful looking one for Ramsdale, that was. He got kneed in the face, but he did come in, and the ball was past him. Stonewall penalty. Interesting it took so long for them to decide that, but that is what happens. Jorginho hop, skip and jump and slots it in. Obviously not going with his technique versus Spurs. Maybe he's going to change it up every now and again to try and confuse the keepers. That could be a tactic from him. But after that, we pretty much dominated. We saw Hudson-Odoi, Alonso and Kante come on. Interesting that Alonso came on. Apparently Tuchel explained that, and it was because Giroud was coming off. He wanted that height in set pieces, which does make sense to be fair, but you feel like Chilwell maybe a bit hard done, but he didn't have a bad game or anything. So that was interesting. Kante also came on later for Timo Werner. So we did see pretty much a 3-5-2 late on, with Mount and Hudson-Odoi being the two up top to really shore up the game. Sheffield had an interesting bicycle kick saved right at the end in the dying embers of the game. Kind of like what happened with Spurs when they had that header. So a bit of a scary moment there, but we do keep it away to win 2-1. A bit of a shame not to get the clean sheet, but that error obviously did mean that we did concede our first goal under Tuchel, which was by our own doing, which is quite funny. But yeah, all that matters, guys, was the 3 points. It wasn't the best performance. It wasn't the most exciting game. But at the end of the day, we got the job done, and that is all that matters at the moment. Tuchel's under no illusion that apparently he needs to get top 4. You know, we know our board is ruthless. We know they have big aspirations. So that's going to actually just get me into talking a little bit now about what we can expect. Because looking at the team, guys, you know, how many goals do you think this team has in it? Now, I know there'd be a few players that would be in, but you look at the back three. Alonso and Rudiger maybe score 1 each a season. Christensen doesn't score at all. You've got Chilwell who scores a few. Reece James can maybe score 1 or 2. Midfield, there's no goals unless you count penalties. And then you look at the front three and you think Giroud can score, but Mason Mount's not really got goal scoring. You know, he's not a goal scoring, you know, merchant. And Timo Werner's been on really poor form and hasn't scored in like 19 games. So, interesting, I think, is more that Tuchel's less focusing on us scoring goals and more focusing on us not conceding any. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't concede any goals, you're at least going to draw games. And I mean, if you score 1 or 2, then those are wins. So you can't really hate it. And especially in his position, you can understand why we're going with this sort of tactic of just, you know, being a lot more stable defensively and maybe nicking a goal or 2. Obviously, it's not the most fun watch, but in a results-based, you know, game and what he's trying to get to in the top 4, it does make a bit of sense. However, obviously, being a Chelsea fan, liking to see the youths, all of that stuff, I would probably down the line like to see a little bit more excitement into the team, you know, and I don't know what that means. If that means Mount going into the midfield, someone else going up there, I think if that means maybe it's a different centre-back combination. I think in the future, I would definitely like to see, if we stick with this 3-4-3, by the way, which we might not, if we go to a 4 at the back, we might see a bit more excitement, but if we do stick to a 3-4-3, I definitely would like to see a bit of a change-up in the defence, I think, but obviously you can see why he's going with the stability. I'm not sure what this means for Rudiger making a mistake, probably not much, because Tuchel didn't seem too bothered by it, to be honest. I wasn't either. It was his first mistake since coming back, and you can't necessarily just bin off a player for one mistake. But, you know, I was thinking, like, if you want goals in the team, and you want to actually create a bit more of a link, maybe this team isn't the sort of best one to do that. This is definitely a team that's set up more defensively, and I do wonder if it's going to come back to bite us eventually. Now, hopefully Tuchel will see if that does happen and he does change the formation. But I was just sort of thinking, look at the back three. Could that be Zuma, Silva and Reece James? That would be interesting. Obviously on the defensive phase we changed to a sort of 4 at the back anyway, so that could be good. And then you could have as the wing backs Hudson-Odoi, Alonso or Chilwell. That's quite attacking, that's quite good. Gets an extra attacker in the team. Midfield could maybe be Mount and someone else, not too sure who. You could still even keep Kovacic and Jorginho because the wing backs there, and even James in the back three really was cover for that, I guess, sort of inept ability at attacking. And to be fair, Kovacic has definitely improved his creativity, as has Jorginho a bit. And then the front three could be something like Tammy, like Werner, and someone else, maybe a Ziyech or a Pulisic. I don't know, I'd probably like to see that team, to be honest, guys. But that's just sort of my evaluation. I think this is the sort of team we can probably expect quite a lot, which is a bit of a shame because it's going to be maybe a bit dull and means there's going to be a lot of frustrating moments with players not making decisions in and around the box. But maybe Tuchel will drill it into the players. So I guess we'll see. I do think our line up against Barnsley, even though I'm not going to get into that now, I'll save that for the preview. I do think it's going to be pretty hilarious how star-studded that team is going to be based off the players that haven't played in this game and will probably start in this one. But that is my little, I guess, discussion, guys, on what I think for the future. Let me know how you think we're going to adapt or if we're going to stay the same. Would like to see some changes, but you can understand why, if we keep winning, that Tuchel's going to stick with maybe the same sort of formula. Would be interested, though, to see if we can continue this formation into our game in 2 weeks against Southampton. That would be fairly interesting. But enough of that. Let's get into my player ratings. As you guys know, 6 is the base level. If you did an alright game, you get a 6. Going to give Mendy a 6.5, I think, because, you know, I think I haven't given him enough credit lately for how good he's been. Not necessarily saving, but in the sense of his distribution, his bravery, I guess, coming out and collecting the ball, and his just his long balls, just his quickness, his sharpness. And he always does make a decent save every single game. And like I say, with his saves, you always think, well, Kepa probably wouldn't have saved that. Same with the bicycle kick, a crucial save in the game. I wouldn't necessarily put the own goal more down to him. It definitely is a bit of an error in communication, but I do think it was more on Antonio Rudiger's side. And speaking of him, he's going to get a 5.5. To be honest, he could have got a lot more. If that own goal didn't happen, I would have probably raised him a bit higher. I was thinking of even doing it anyway, because after the own goal, he picked up his game loads. He made a lot of crucial blocks, crucial clearances, and I think was decent. So, you know, 5.5 for that big mistake, but I don't think it was an awful performance, to be honest. Maybe a few shaky moments. Would still obviously like to see Zuma in the team, but Rudiger I think was okay. Christensen, he's going to get a 6.5, the highest rating of our back three. Impressed with him in that centre role. He came out with the ball and drove forward a little bit. Actually won a duel with a Sheffield player. You know, we know that he's not known for his physicality, but actually did well. Back three, probably the thing that suits him the most of the two experienced players around him. Yeah, I still don't really trust him to be consistent, but he's doing a solid job. We'll probably see him again for the next 1 or 2 games in that role as well, while Silva's still out, so hopefully he can keep up the good performance. Aspie's going to get a base 6 rating. Thought he was alright, didn't notice him too much, which can be seen as a good and a bad thing in some aspects. Are going to give him the average score. One thing I will say as well, going back to my lineup, is the defence really, and one thing that I've noticed in all of the 4 games under Tuchel, corners, guys, corners. We've had 31 corners in our last 4 games, and I can't remember one of them where we looked like we were going to score, unless it was a tactical one where we maybe passed it on the inside. There's just no threat. There's no threat at all. Thiago Silva is alright. He can sometimes, you know, get on the end of a corner. But that's another reason why I think we need Zuma. You know, when we're not scoring that much from open play, when maybe we are in a bit more of a defensive lineup in terms of the more attacking players who are maybe a bit more defensively inclined, I think that having someone at the back who can provide a threat from those set pieces is crucial, and that's why I think Zuma needs to get back in the team. Rudiger can maybe score 1 a season. Aspie, Christensen, they're not going to score from a corner. I think that, you know, Zuma's needed in that sort of sense, because from set pieces he is a big threat for us. And I mean, even though he's scored 4 goals, he could have scored even more. So I do think he needs to be back in the team for that, and for that pretty much alone. And he's not even the worst defender than any of those guys anyway. I think he's falling into a bit of that trap again of people saying that he's not as good on the ball as the others, when yes, he looks a bit clunky, but if you look at the stats, he's actually sometimes better in some aspects, and actually not as bad as some may think. Going to the win-backs though, Chilwell going to get a 6. Did alright. Obviously that penalty doesn't count, so that doesn't really come into my thinking, although it was a pretty poor thing to give away. I did feel bad for him at points because he did make runs and just wasn't found. That's sort of, again, the downside of the lack of creativity in midfield. So yeah, felt a bit bad for him. And the thing was, is when Alonso came on, he did look a little bit stronger. So interesting time at the moment for Chilwell. Definitely not in form, and hopefully he can get back into that soon. Right wing back Reece James, I'm going to give a 7 because I thought he looked very good. I thought defensively he looked very solid, got us out of situations. I thought attacking wise, I thought he looked good. I thought he brought in crosses, he had some shots. I didn't really, again, understand the dynamic of people saying all he did was kill attacks. I mean, there's plenty of other players in this 11 that are more susceptible and guilty of killing attacks than Reece James. But like I said, I'll have to look back or have a look at his future performances. But a 7 for me I thought was fair enough. Jorginho's also going to get a 7. First half wasn't impressed with him really at all. Like I said, looking back at that Sheffield performance last season, he was getting ran past a lot, getting bullied a bit. His tackles seemed a bit half-hearted. half-hearted, but he did get back into it, and most crucially, he did score the goal which ended up winning us the game for that penalty. So a 7 for him. Going to give Kovacic a 7.5. Another good performance. Again, not perfect. With Kovacic, you know what you're going to get. There is a few forward passes that he messed up. He has to get used to trying to create a bit more. However, there has been a couple of passes that have been really impressive. So if he keeps trying, then you can't really slate him for that. He does need to stop shooting though, and that's the reason why I'm necessarily not his biggest fan. When you need probably someone in the midfield to give a bit of goal threat, he's not the guy. He always skies or misses. He's not the best at shooting. Great at getting it out of tight spaces though. Did some good defensive work. Solid performance from him in my opinion. Going into the front three, Werner's also going to get a 7.5. Got 2 assists, technically went down for the penalty that he won. He's been good at winning penalties and fouls, and he also got the nice assist from Mason Mount. One thing I've noticed about Werner in the last few games, and even more recently than that under Lampard, he is very good at crossing / cutting the ball back. He does do that fairly well, especially hitting the ball across the face of the goal. If people can get on the end of those, Werner could have a lot of assists. He's our top assister at the moment, and he's actually quite good at those sort of crosses. He's normal passing, and his maybe touch isn't great, but those balls into the box actually not that bad. So 7.5 for him. Definitely a big step up in his performances recently. If he can add goals, he could be absolutely brilliant. Still don't know what his best role really is in the team. Still struggling there, but he seems to be performing well enough. So fair play to him. Mason Mount's going to get an 8 out of 10. Again, just leads the press, stopping counter-attacks, pressing, got the first goal of the game, a really nice finish, created some more chances as well, and he's really the player that's always trying to make things happen in the team. Like I said, like everyone, there can be a bit of an issue with decision-making in the box, but he's not guilty for trying, and he's always the player who's up for it, and someone that I think is thriving at the moment at Chelsea, and is really just showing why he needs to still be staying in this team. Giroud's going to get 5.5. Wasn't really impressed at all. Didn't know if it was maybe lack of service or he was performing poorly. Think it was kind of both. Would have liked to have seen Abraham maybe come on for Giroud, give him a go. I still think it's a bit harsh that all we've seen of Abraham is that 45 minutes against Burnley, especially when we actually opened up Burnley a little bit in the second half. But hopefully we'll see Abraham against Barnsley. Same with Zuma, same with players like Gilmour, and hopefully they can try and prove themselves in those matches. Giroud, I think, is an interesting case, because I don't want to be controversial here. I feel like he's gone from one of the most underrated players at Chelsea to one of the more overrated players at Chelsea. And I heard a thing about weeks ago when Giroud was in that really good run of form, and he was playing, he was scoring consistently. Whilst it was a good thing for him, was it a detriment to the team? Because you think about the way we played when he was starting, and I didn't think that players like Werner really thrived off him that much, and it was meaning that Abraham was on the bench, and I personally thought that the team played better under Abraham. And I'm not just even going to bring this to Giroud. Look, Kovacic and Jorginho playing really great at the moment, but is their form a detriment to maybe Mount moving deeper and providing more of that attacking threat? Is it a detriment to Kante, to Gilmour, who could maybe link up better with the team? It might be, so it's interesting, isn't it? Because players in form is good, but you think, is this player's form good for the team? For the whole connection and the whole flow of the team? Maybe not, so that's something to definitely keep in mind. But Giroud, poor game from him, going to get 5.5. On to the bench, going to give Alonso a 6.5 actually. I think he was better than Chilwell when he came on, and to be fair, Sheffield were opened up a lot. This is the reason why Tuchel's early subs kind of bewilder me a little bit, especially when we've gone up a goal, and then he'll sub someone off, and I think, well, now that we've opened them up, maybe there'll be more of a chance for these attackers to do better. But I mean, he brought Alonso on, and Alonso did well, I thought. He actually looked a bit lively defensively, probably because he came on as a sub. Still in that proving himself phase. Don't trust him to be consistent yet. It's going to take weeks for that to happen, but another decent performance. Hudson-Odoi and Kante both going to get a 6. Didn't really have much time to do much. Kante definitely looked better in this game than he did coming on against Spurs, so maybe he's getting back into the swing of things. Someone that's probably going to start against Barnsley, which is hilarious. And Hudson-Odoi doing well as well. Wouldn't be surprised if against Newcastle we saw him return to that wing-back role. But those are going to be my player ratings, guys. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Player of the season, point scoring system. Not going to give anyone 3 points, because the 2 players that are getting 2 points from me were similar. One of them got man of the match, one of them maybe was better in some other fans' eyes. I wouldn't say that anyone stuck out as wow, they are the player in this game. So I think the 1 point's going to go to Kovacic firstly. Decent performance from him in midfield. And 2 points are going to be shared between Timo Werner and Mason Mount. I think this is the first time I've given Werner points in absolutely ages, to be honest. He's going to get 2. Got the 2 assists, like I said. Mount got the goal. I think both were great. I'd probably say Mount's overall performance was a little bit better, but Werner definitely looked to improve loads. So they're both going to get 2 points from me. And as you can see, how those scores are tallying up. Some more players coming from like the bottom rank and sort of calling themselves up now that they weren't playing under Lampard and now are under Tuchel. But that's going to be my review of the game, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. My preview for the Barnsley game will be out before it does commence, so stay tuned for that. And as I did say earlier, guys, hopefully we can see some formation or personnel changes soon, because whilst the results are the most important thing, and I do want us to get top 4 no matter what, it would be nice to maybe see a bit more excitement in this team as, you know, I guess maybe against Newcastle, maybe we can see that, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, do subscribe, guys, for more Chelsea FC content, and I'll see you next time.